Hi everybody, I'm Flavia and I hope your week is off to a great start. In today's video, I will show you how I made this magic slider note card. Usually at the beginning of the video, I show the die or stamp set that I will be using, but not today because we will not need any special die set to create this magic slider note card. To cut out a window from the front panel as well as this frame and the sentiment, I used old die sets that I already had, and I suggest you do the same. Before we begin, let me show you the completed note card so you know the direction that we are going. When you take this note card out of the envelope, it looks like just a regular A2 size note card. However, this white panel slides up and down, revealing a surprise inside. I chose to use a picture, but we could also do stamped images instead. This is perfect for any occasion and a very nice surprise for the recipient. This is my first time making a magic slider note card and I was very surprised at how easy it was. I will begin by creating the magic slider panel and then I will adhere this panel to an A2 size note card. To create the slider mechanism, I will use a top folding A2 size note card. It measures 5.5 inches tall by 4.25 inches wide. On one side of this note card, I will cut out a window so I can later glue a picture inside. To cut out a window and to add a frame around it later, I will use this die set by Spellbinders. You could also use a square die to cut out a window like this one, or just use a craft knife. That is what I was going to do when I remember I had this die set. If you're using a die, as you run this through your die cut machine, remember to unfold your note card so you only cut out a window from the front panel. After that, I will trim my picture to size and adhere it to the inside of this A2 size note card. Now with a craft knife, I will cut a slit along the fold line on the top of this note card. I made these two long white lines to show you how wide the front window is, and I added these two small white markings to show you how long the slit has to be. So my front window is 2 5/8 wide and I will cut a slit that is about 3 inches long along the fold line. So whatever the size of your front window is, when you cut a slit, just make sure that it is just a little bit longer because the white panel that we will add later, so we can slide it up and down, will have to be wider than the front window, so it completely covers the picture. So here I have the white panel that I will use to hide my picture. It is about 3 inches wide and I will place this pocket border die on top of it and run it through my die cut machine to create this tab that the recipient can hold to pull it up and down. If you do not have a metal plate like this, another way to add a tab to your panel is just to use a round circle die, cut the circle in half and glue it to the panel. Or you can also do a partial die cutting on the top section of this panel with a round metal die to create a tab. As you can see here, I can easily slide this white panel up and down without a problem, and this white panel completely covers my picture. That means that this mechanism works great and my panel size is perfect since it completely hides my picture when it is down. When you make this type of note card, make sure that you are always testing it out before adhering the pieces. Now I will open this note card and using double-sided adhesive tape, I will add a piece of clear acetate to the back of my window to protect my picture. I usually like to use liquid adhesive, but when it comes to acetate, I highly recommend using double-sided tape since you don't have to wait for it to dry like we usually do with glue, and also you will not have to deal with any glue oozing out and making your acetate dirty. This acetate is by Hero Arts and I like that it comes pre-cut in 4.25 by 5.5 pieces, which is perfect for me since most of the note cards that I like to make are A2 size. And now that my picture is protected and I know that my magic slider mechanism works, let's decorate this white panel. Since this note card is for my husband and I'm not really good at creating note cards for men, the best I can do is keep it as simple as possible and not add any embellishments to this note card. So on this white panel, I will use this You Matter background stamp by Simon Says Stamp. I love this one and it will go perfectly with the die cut sentiment that I will add later. Because this is a cling stamp, I remove the black foam that comes with my Misty stamping tool, and I will add removable tape to the back of this white panel and place it right in the center of the background stamp that I already placed on the door of my Misty stamping tool. Then I will close this tool on the opposite way, flip it and press it down to make my white panel that has tape in the back stick to the other side of this stamping tool. Once I open this, my white panel will be perfectly centered and I will be able to stamp this in the same spot as many times as I need to get a good result. I'm using black pigment ink because it does not dry so fast, and I will have enough time to add embossing powder on top of it and heat set this panel. I'm using a clear embossing powder and it will make these words very glossy, which I like. Now I will place this white panel inside my magic slider and add double-sided adhesive foam tape around the edges to close this mechanism. The reason why I'm not simply using liquid adhesive is because as we pull this panel up and down, it tends to shift from side to side, and by adding foam around it, it will work as walls so this panel does not shift as much as we pull it up and down. Notice that I added a thin strip of black cardstock at the bottom of this white panel. This cardstock strip will work as a stopper and it will keep this white panel from completely coming out as the recipient pulls it up. However, if you want the recipient to be able to completely remove this panel, you can go ahead and skip this step. Before I adhere together the front and back of this magic slider, I will test it out again to make sure the white panel easily slides up and down now that I added the cardstock strip at the bottom. I will also clean up my acetate piece with a clean cloth and alcohol. Once that's done, I can go ahead and remove the backing from my double-sided adhesive foam and seal this mechanism. Since I did not have black foam to match my black cardstock panel, I will go over the foam around the edges with a black marker to make it look more finished. Now, using that other metal plate from the Spellbinder set that I showed you earlier, I will cut out this beautiful frame for my panel out of golden cardstock. This die set cuts these 3 beautiful pieces, but I will only use the square frame and save the other ones for a future project. Even though this die cut frame is very intricate, I had no problem applying liquid adhesive in the back because I used this bottle that has a needle tip. This bottle is perfect for applying glue to small die cut pieces or even intricate die cuts like this one. Then I will use a clean cloth to wipe off any liquid adhesive that is oozing out and then adhere this magic slider to an A2 size note card. To cut out the sentiment, I chose the You Are Loved metal plate by Simon Says Stamp. I die cut it a few times out of black cardstock so I can stack them for dimension, and I will top it with a metallic red die cut. And since I remember that part of this die cut will be adhered to the acetate, and I do not like having to deal with glue oozing out on acetate, I will die cut one more piece. But before I do that, I will add double-sided adhesive to the back of this piece of cardstock. This way, this next die-cut piece will have adhesive in the back and it will work like a sticker, which means I will not need to use glue to adhere this sentiment to my front panel. When we die cut this sentiment, we also get these hearts and circle pieces that we can place them back inside the letter O's. I think that looks great, but since I'm going for a more simple look today, I will save these pieces for a future note card. I also created a matching envelope by stamping an white envelope using that same background stamp by Simon Says Stamp. I used the same black pigment ink by Autumnal, but I did not heat emboss it. I stamped the front and back of the envelope because I'm going to hand this to the recipient, so I don't need room to address this envelope. But if you're planning on mailing this note card, one option is just to stamp the flap of the envelope. I will also add a golden die cut sentiment to the flap of this envelope that says happy birthday. I really like the look of this black and white envelope and how it perfectly matches my note card, but I ended up not using it because Since my A2 size note card has a pull tab sticking out on the top, it ended up being too big for this envelope. Instead, I used this A2 size envelope and I added that same die cut sentiment to the flap of this one as well. I hope you enjoyed this video and give this Magic Slider note card a try. It is really fun to make and a very nice surprise for the recipient. Plus, it can work for any occasion. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end. I really appreciate it. For more information and pictures, make sure to visit my blog. Have a wonderful day and I hope to see you again soon.